It's confirmed, Miles is going to become the main Spider-Man moving forward in the Insomniac series. We also got a ton of new info on the future of the franchise, with DLC looking even more likely. But in order to talk about all of this, I need to get into heavy main and side content spoilers, so if you haven't completed the game yet, save this video for later. If you have though, you're probably wondering what exactly that ending scene between Peter and Miles meant for the future. And while I don't believe Peter is going to quit, more on that later, it has now been confirmed that Miles will be New York's main Spider-Man in a Gizmodo interview with advanced writer Brittany Morris and narrative director Ben Arfman. On top of those responsibilities, Miles will likely also have to become a mentor for Cindy, so while Peter is getting a well-deserved break, he is going to be very busy. So let's hope Cindy is a quick learner, as we are almost certainly getting her as a third playable character, be that in Spider-Man 3 or a spin-off title like Miles Morales. Cindy, aka Silk, of course briefly appeared in the final after credits scene in a way that felt very similar to the tease of Miles becoming Spider-Man at the end of the first game. So that already made it pretty likely that she would eventually turn into a new playable character. But in his interview with Kinda Funny Games, Brian Intihar gave another hint that pretty much confirms Silk as a playable character, while also seemingly confirming that Peter will remain active as a Spider-Man. Have a listen.
And the other thing was like the writers having to write dialogue for both Miles and Peter.
Which is such a cool thing.
So like it's like double the work, and and could be more sooner.
So in Spider-Man 2, you can of course choose to play some of the side content with either Miles or Peter, and both will have slightly different dialogue. Well, Brian now heavily hints that in the future we'll be able to switch to a third character too, so they also have to write lines for when you are doing side content as Silk, while also teasing that Peter will indeed remain playable as well. Again, I know some people had doubts about him taking a step back in the ending, but I think that was more about finding the right balance and not about quitting altogether. Of course, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Another interesting thing about the Silk scene is that her addition was not set in stone. In fact, in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, senior creative director Brian Intihar reveals that he, senior art director Jacinda Chu, and project director Jeanette Lee had a conversation about including a different person to the Spider-Pals roster, one that people might expect. The most obvious guess here is of course Gwen Stacy, but I do agree with Jacinda Chu's statement that picking a character that is better known can get you weighed down and also bolstered by fan expectation. Going with Cindy offered the team more room to give it their own spin, so I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with her character and origin story. And while I think it will be a while before we see and get to play as Silk, there is a high chance we get some Carnage related content before that. His inclusion was of course the big tease at the end of the Flame side quest, but we now learned that Insomniac first considered including the full Carnage story in the main game. Ultimately, the team decided against it because there was just not enough time and not enough space to do it, according to John Paquette. He then followed that up by saying there's enough space to set up something in the future, a sentiment that was shared by Morris and Arfman in their respective interview. So that could mean a lot of things, but I think the safest bet is a DLC. If they wanted to include this storyline in the base game at one point, it likely means they already have a good idea on how they want the story to play out. So then it makes even more sense to explore it in extra content for Spider-Man 2 rather than something else. What we now also learned is that Brian Intihar sees the City That Never Sleeps DLC for Spider-Man 1 as a success, specifically because it extends the story and the world of the game, which makes it more likely that they would take a similar 3-episode approach for Spider-Man 2, and one of those episodes could be a Carnage fight. There might even be a map expansion, as certain landmarks are already visible and rendered in unreachable areas of the map, and Daredevil could show up as well. Of course, let me know what you'd like to see in the comments. And we actually got a new update on Daredevil's potential appearance. We'll get to that in a moment. Of course, if you like the video so far, be sure to leave a like and help us out, and subscribe to not miss out on future Spidey content. So yeah, still some storylines that could be wrapped up in Spidey 2, but the main stage for the third game is of course reserved for Norman Osborn, whose transformation into the Green Goblin was already teased in the ending. And it turns out that no matter the plot, Norman would always have appeared at the end of Spider-Man 2. In his interview with Entertainment Weekly, Brian noted that that scene in some way has always been the plan since day one. Intihar also compared the iconic Spidey villain to Venom in regards to the fact that both characters bring a lot of expectations with them. So you want to make sure if you're going to do it, you're going to deliver on it. And from Doc Ock to Kraven to Venom, I think the studio has done a brilliant job at making the villains feel threatening to Spider-Man, so I can't wait to see their take on the Green Goblin. And it also makes sense from a narrative narrative standpoint, as clarified by senior narrative director John Paquette. The team did consider introducing the Green Goblin at the end of the first game, but eventually decided against it because it would add too many characters to an already crowded cast. So instead, like Paquette notes, Norman has done a lot of hurt to the city, but he's doing it all for the love of his son, who he now believes is taken from him, which is of course the perfect setup for him turning into a full-fledged supervillain. Now we can already see from these quotes that Insomniac respects this character a lot, which definitely rules out the possibility of him being a feature villain in a potential DLC, and I don't think he'll be featured in a spin-off game either due to his personal connection with Peter. So Green Goblin as the big bad in Spider-Man 3 seems all but confirmed, and as Jordan discussed before in a previous video, Brian sees Spidey 1 as Insomniac's Iron Man, Spidey 2 as their Civil War, and the third entry would have to be their Endgame, which in my mind totally hints at the appearance of many different heroes, including of course Wolverine. Because we now have full confirmation that both Insomniac Spider-Man and Wolverine take place in the same universe, so Earth 1048, as was also teased in the Wolverine trailer. That definitely means there's an opportunity for a Spidey-Wolverine crossover, but the team was deliberately very careful not to put a ton of information on the Dangerous Mutant in Spider-Man 2. There is of course that reference to Madripoor we mentioned in our Easter eggs video. We'll leave a link to that one in the video description, and Paquette also elaborated on this Easter egg, noting that they did want to make sure that there was at least a nod to make sure that we're setting up this 1048 universe and doing it justice. But both John and Brian have stressed that they wanted to let the Wolverine team do their own thing and not put them in a corner by already teasing big plot points in a Spider-Man game. So seems like they want to let that dev team inside Insomniac tell their own unique Wolverine story first, which also means we should not expect Spider-Man to show up in that game at all. Could be they will leave that for a post-credit scene, which could then connect the two characters for a team-up in Spider-Man 3. And of course, Daredevil could be another ally we see in that game. We talked about the many hints currently in-game before, we'll also link to that video for if you are curious. But now, Brian added more fuel to the fire during a recent Insomniac stream, or is he just messing with us?
Bye everybody!
Where is Daredevil?
Where indeed, Brian, where indeed. It would be lovely if you just told us, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. And while there are of course even more heroes like the Avengers or the Fantastic Four that are being teased, I don't think we should expect every tease to lead to an eventual DLC/spin-off/standalone game. Both Paquette and Intihar have noted that there are many things in the game that could lead to something bigger, but not everything will. Now Daredevil is definitely a case apart considering how much evidence there is, but I don't think we should expect anything more from that Spiderverse Easter egg, for instance. Insomniac were asked about this Easter egg in several interviews, and it seems like the main intent here was to have some form of narrative payoff at the end of an activity rather than set something up or link it to the Spiderverse. So while it is still possible that we see more multiverse stuff in future content or games, I don't think it's very likely. I am curious to hear what you want to see next for the series though, so let us know in the comments, and when we learn more about the future of Spider-Man, we will of course let you know here, so subscribe to make sure you stay up to date. And of course, at the end of every video, we showcase some amazing screenshots from our Discord community, which you can join via the link in the pinned comment. So post your shots there for a chance to get featured in the next video, and Joyce, show us which shots you've selected this time.
Yes, thanks Dennis. How's it going everyone? First up, we've got that gamer who took this stunning shot of Miles chilling in front of the Sanctum Sanctorum at night, waiting to get a glimpse of Wong, or Strange I assume. You and me both, buddy. Up next is 19Josh96, where Peter looks like he's jumping off a building and throws a thumbs up just before swinging. I absolutely love the composition with the various lights of New York at night in the background. But my favorite of the three is from Sausage Cabal, hope I pronounced this right, where Peter is sitting very cool and collected in the air while wearing the Kumo suit. Almost like he's meditating. Very cool shot.
Thanks again, remember to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to not miss the next one, and watch our previous video on potential DLC locations by clicking on the screen. I'll see you in the next one, goodbye.